Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Theology in the Raw. My guest today is Chris Sprinkle, who is my wife, not my brother. Some people think she's my brother, but she is definitely my wife and definitely not my brother. Let's see. I should give some stats here. Chris is the VP of Operations for the Center for Faith, Sexuality, and Gender and the COO of Theology in the Raw. I think that's the title that she has. Basically, she runs both Theology in Raw and the Center for Faith, Sexuality, and Gender as a mother of our 4 children. And I don't know, we live together, I guess. So, Chris and I wanted to get together and just kind of debrief on the whole Exiles in Babylon conference that just happened a week ago. And just we talk about life stuff. We talk about parenting. We talk about kids, talk about the future of Theology in Raw, and anything else that came into our minds over the last hour or so. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Also, if you did miss the Exiles in Babylon conference, we do have you can purchase the entire conference, a video series of the entire conference at ondemand.theologyintheraw.com. Okay. Or you can just go to theologyintheraw.com and you can find out how to purchase the entire Exiles in Babylon conference. So please welcome back to the show by popular demand, the one and only Chris Sprinkle. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Theology in the Raw. I'm here with my wife, Chris Sprinkle. Chris, thanks for joining me in the basement. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great.
Are you though? Get a little closer there.
Well, yeah. It just took us a minute to get down here.
Why is that, Chris?
Oh, parenting, right?
What was my motto?
Oh my gosh. The funniest thing you've ever said to me when we were like in the heat of just not today, but another time, we're heat of everything with the kids. So we have 4 teenagers, and you said to me, Chris,
say it. It's funnier when you say it.
It is us versus them. And as soon as you said that, I laughed so hard and said, thank you. And so
how you feel? You feel like it's us versus
and so I was just coming down. So I was, 10 minutes ago, I was all ready for this podcast. I was like all ready to come down. And then one of our children, all of us got in a big fight with one of them, and it soured the mood. And then I was like sitting up there going, I don't want to come down here and do it. And then I started laughing and I was like, say that to me again, Preston. It's us versus them. And then that just got me down here.
I almost bagged the whole time. I'm like, forget it. Let's just not do this. Like, I'm not in the mood to podcast right now.
I know, but we were. And then just one thing. It's not easy parenting teenagers.
Is that where you want to start? You want to start parenting teenagers?
It just becomes the power of wills.
What do you think it is?
Yeah.
You guys are too much alike or too much not alike? Or
just with all the kids?
Yeah. Yeah, because
I think it's just
well, let's begin. I mean, we would both I mean, and we're biased because we're parents of our kids, but I feel like our kids are really amazing.
Yeah.
Like
I think so. I think at the end of the day, it's the power of us letting go, them wanting more freedom. Mm-hmm. It's messy. It can be kind of messy as we try to figure it out. So none of the things are like bad. And it's like, even like what we kind of were frustrated at each other. It wasn't, we both had like sides that were legitimate, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's one that is like they're trying to pull away and be independent and do their own thing. And as they're doing it, it's a little messier because it's like they're maybe not communicating in the best way. And then we're learning how to let go and give freedoms where it is. So I think it just becomes it's just more messy trying to figure out how to let go and how for them to take freedom in a way that's still honoring. And
I think I don't know if they would actually say they're trying to break free and be independent. I think there's definitely some of that.
Not break free, just be independent.
Yeah. Trying to figure out what it's like to still be under our. So we have one, engaged, get married. She lives in California. Then we have 2 teenage girls at home, and then our teenage son just turned 14. So especially the two older girls are driving, they have jobs, they're very independent people. I don't know where they get that from. They're strong, they're independent, they're go-getters, they've got plans, they have ideas, they have stuff they're doing. And so I think, and they're enjoying that more and more. And we, we raised our kids, we homeschooled our kids, we did a ton of stuff together. So there was just like, I think, and I just asked Josie the other day, like, hey, did you like being homeschooled? And she says, I loved it. I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. Because somebody at the conference was asking me, did your kids like being homeschooled? And I'm like, well, there's one right there. Let's ask her, So I think they definitely liked the upbringing, but it was a lot. I mean, we are together, a lot. And I think now they're very independent spirited. Like,
which is great. I'm so thankful. We've raised them we want them to be independent, want them to be have the strength to go on in life, and so but it's just, it can be messy along the way. Yeah. So parenting. Shall we give the example or no?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead. I like this. I like it when you're raw. Usually I'm the one that's a little too raw. And you're kicking my shins saying, don't say.
I know. I always prep them and say, hey, don't ask me specific questions on the air. Okay. So this would be
we are going to talk about the conference too, by the way.
We are.
Yeah. What's the album? No, what were you going to say though? The illustration?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? I don't know if you're.
Just from up there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk
about
it?
Just to give an example of what. So the kids all go to a Bible study Tuesday night, and our friends who host it, they always provide dinner for everybody. And so from the conference, I have gobs and gobs of extra food. Good food. Because we had lots of dinners at our house. So we had so much. So last night I said to our friend, hey, I've got you covered for dinner tomorrow night.
Friend who leads the Bible study.
The friend, who leads Bible study. I've got you covered for dinner for tomorrow night for all you guys, because I have so much food. And he's like, fantastic.
You didn't even say I got you covered. You said, would you mind if I
asked, do you have food for tomorrow night? Yeah. And he said, I don't. I said, great. I got you covered. I have so much food. And he's like, thank you so much. So then this morning I said to my girls, hey, when you guys go to Bible study tonight, just make sure you bring the dinner that I'm going to, I have so much, I'm bringing dinner I'm making dinner, for you all. So just bring it with you guys. And they were like, no, we already were planning on making our own dinner for the Bible study. And I was like, well, I have so much food. Let's use the food that I have. And they're like, well, no, we already had planned this with our friends that what we want to make, we're going to the store and buying food and want to make dinner, and we have something already planned. And so right there is the power of the struggle, where it's like, so what I mean is like breaking free is just being independent. Like, it's such a great thing. They want to go buy food and cook the full dinner and spend a couple hours. That's like I'm so proud of that. And then on just like guiding them to like, okay, well, let's not buy more food if I have already food. But that in their mind, they're like, that didn't make sense. They just had it in their mind of what they wanted to buy. We already wanted to. And so then it was just back and forth, the big like, I don't feel good about buying more food when we have already food. And then in their mind, they're like, but you didn't even check with us. And I'm like, I didn't know I had to check with you. I checked with the Bible study leader.
That's stressing me out again. I'm so stressed. And I'm sitting there like watching like a tennis match, like trying to suck down my first cup of coffee, like, oh
and then
my gosh.
What happens with
us stressful in the conference.
And then what happens with all of us girls is that we all look to Preston and we're like, Preston,
fix it. Tell her she's wrong. They're all looking at me. I'm like,
and then he has to be like Moses, sitting on his throne, telling everybody who's right and wrong. And then usually everyone's right, because that's how he handles it. He's like, well, you were right in this and you were right in this, but then we all want to know who's righter.
He's gonna handle like Solomon. Bring me the sword.
Or that's what I meant, not Moses. It was Solomon. Like he sat on his throne and he would just. So anyway, so that was that. So then in the end, I was like, okay, make your go buy, do the things you were already planning on doing.
And they're like, no, fine, we'll do it your way. And like that's like just everything switches.
And then they left, and then we sat for a few minutes, and then I said, tell me again. It's
us against them.
Yes.
Us versus them.
All right, that was probably as raw as I will ever be on this show, because I do not like giving personal stories at all.
Why is that?
Well, I don't want to, because it's our personal life, and I don't want anyone feeling bad, and they could get really mad about even me telling this on the air. So
I don't think our kids mind as much. I think you've always been like,
I think they will.
Much more protective of personal stuff and life and everything. And
yeah, so I won't share any more personal stories. Okay. The rest, but
not with the kids, but you can share other personal stories.
Yeah.
So how was the conference, Chris?
Awesome.
So, where do we want to start? So I guess let's just catch everybody up. So we had our second annual Exiles in Babylon conference. We started last year in 2022, which means we were planning the first one in 2021. So this is a few years now where we've been in kind of conference mode. It started as just an idea. Hey, let's just, invite a few speakers, have some worship. I don't know. Let's just do a conference and kind of create it as we go. Well, it turned out a lot of people started buying tickets and buying plane tickets and registration, and more speakers were coming and agreeing to come and everything. And the first one turned into be a lot bigger than we were expecting. So the room holds 1,100. We had 1,150 in the room the first year. So we said, well, heck yeah, we're going to do this again. So we planned a second one, and the dates were just pretty terrible. We didn't realize it was the majority of people's spring break.
Well, we won't do it again during spring break. We wanted to try it out to see if that is a better timing. It worked better with the church because the church we basically had access to the church the whole week and didn't have to share it. They have a school on campus, so we didn't have to share it with that. So that was great. But I think we were still at like 925.
Yeah, we're like 100 less than the year before. Which I don't even big numbers. I don't.
Yeah, which was great. But it just there was a lot of our local friends that were like, man, I wish you didn't do it during spring break and stuff. So.
We added,
and then March. It was snowing, and the weather was pretty terrible. Like the sun would come out for a little bit, and then the snow would fly in, and wind, and so at one point, so right when we, excuse me, right when we start off, we're about ready to open up the doors. We have all the registration bags. We always give really great gift bags. The gift bags are typically worth more than the cost of your ticket because we just get so much donated. But we have all of our tables out ready for people to come, check in and get their bags. And we set all the bags out, 1,000 bags. And we turned away for a quick second to in a team meeting or really quick before we were going to go out there and check in. And then hail and rain just come pouring in, and I about flipped out because it's hitting all of the books inside the registration bags. So I'm like, get the bags. And so we rush out, all 25 volunteers, and just start grabbing bags and bringing them under, for safety. And then we had to wipe them all down. And anyways, it was I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh, man. We had let's go back a few weeks before the conference. I am coming off of January through March was just probably some of the most speaking and traveling I've done in such a short amount of time, probably ever. So I was coming into a few weeks before the conference just pretty spent, and whenever I'm gone, it's harder on the family, it's harder on even ministry. We do ministry together, so you have questions and conversations you didn't have with me, and I'm gone and everything. So we were coming into the conference just pretty spent, and we were talking it's not when we do a third conference, it's if we even want to do another conference. Do you want to go back to that moment, and how were you feeling about that? And then I want to get to how are you feeling now about possibly doing another conference next year?
Yeah, I think it was, we were overwhelmed a couple weeks before, just with all that it entails to put it together. And we had multiple speakers drop out the last couple, 2 weeks, about 10 days before. There was just a lot of big things that was this is just stressful. At the end of the day, this is just carrying a lot of stress on just making all this happen, and we always want to do everything well, and we put a lot of time into it, and just in general, I can't do things mediocre, you know, like I have a vision for how it needs to be, and I'm going to do that. So we do, you know, put a lot of time in, but yeah, we were just, it was, I don't know, we were like, let's not commit to a third one. Let's just see, you know, how it goes. A lot of
stuff in our life is like stuff we choose to do. Like we actually,
yeah,
we are in, like, we don't have a boss hiring us telling us you need to do this, you need to do that. So if we get into a space where we're overwhelmed with ministry and it's just like, well, we made those decisions. So that's where like, let's not do that again, maybe. So that was a few weeks before the conference, and even during the conference when one of the questions came to me, like, you know, what are some topics you want to cover next year? And I even said, well, if we do another conference, and I heard a big moan from the conference from the people. So how are you feeling now about doing another one?
Well, the next morning when we woke up and Khatri came over. If none of you guys met Khatri, he should be here right with us. He like, without him, there would be for sure no conference. So,
Chris Khatri, he works for Eternity Bible College. A little shout out to Eternity, but he does so much of the behind the scenes stuff with Theology Gender.
So we're Chris, and so we always say boy Chris, girl Chris. But he came over so we could debrief, and right when he walked in, we're like, we're totally doing a third one.
Or even like a few a year, you said.
Yeah, we might even do, this is what I want to do. I would do a smaller one in the fall, like just a Friday night, Saturday morning, so 2 topics. And that will be in different cities. Like we could choose better cities to do it, like
more
Atlanta
central,
or Austin. We were talking Atlanta or Denver. And then still have like 2, you know, great topics. It'd be more stripped down and then still have the once a year here in Boise, probably in April though. I think we're going to push it back a little bit, and then do where it feels more like we you know, you get to know people by the end. It's like there's with camaraderie or like community is just really feels like, I feel like after 3 days of seeing kind of the same groups and kind of talking, it just felt like you get to know people a lot more. So I still want to do that once a year. So yes, I still want to, but like everything is just, well, how can we just streamline things to easier, smoother, so that we don't feel, you know, and I think most of it is just, we need, now that we can kind of know like how, like what we need help with, it's a lot easier to put people to help with those things. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely want to just streamline it better to get people to help specifically with things that will make it just so that we're not 2 weeks in wanting to not do it again.
I think it's hard. Well, let me just real quick on that. Yeah. So we are, and this is all brainstorming stage, you know, but like, if we did do a one day meaning like a Friday night session and then a Saturday morning session and or maybe not Friday, Saturday, or maybe Friday, Saturday, whatever. But do kind of an evening session, a morning session, and maybe we even add like an optional something in the early afternoon. But we want to make it where people can fly in, only have to spend one night. But we'd want it in a more central location. So I mean, like a Denver, Atlanta.
I think it was Street Hymns that Dallas. Said, okay, it's time to take this on the road. And I feel like
Ellie, we're both like, we gotta do more of these elsewhere too, you know.
And I feel like we've had that conversation even like this past year, what it would look like to take it on the road. But when he said it, I was like, I think we need to do, but let's just do more, like a couple minis throughout the year, like in different places, and then
so I'll just throw it out there, I guess. I mean, we are looking for, if we pursue this kind of idea, we would need a church that, you know, holds, I would say at least 1,200, preferably like maybe 1,500. I think the turnout would be probably pretty good for something that's, you know, less committed, especially if it's in a big city. But we would, here's the rub with us is like, for those of you who have been to Theology in Raw or listen to the podcasts, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea. So here's where, I don't know, we want to be sensitive. Like a church that wants to host this, I just want to tell them up front, okay, you're going to get 50 emails critical for hosting this. Are you okay with that? Like, because we quote unquote platform people that other people don't like, and we have controversial speakers, and we have this, that, and we want to roll the dice and do things that are mixing things up, that are more raw than normal. And we know that a lot of Christians, even churches, especially some of the bigger churches, I don't know, like they tend to be a little more conservative and get nervous if, whoa, you're having that person out. So we just wouldn't want to put a church through that, nor do I want to put up with, like at the last second, the church saying, hey, we got to pull the plug on this because we're getting too many emails about people complaining about you having Greg Boyd speak, or whatever. So we would need a church that was like, no, we know your vision. We totally believe in it. We are all in. But also we're not looking like we don't actually, I think to help the church, we're not looking to like partner with a church. We just want a church to be able to open up space and let us handle all that. You can even say, hey, look, we're not partnering with this thing. We're opening up our space. We're letting them use the church. Because I don't, sorry.
Well, because it like this is what we're trying to do is have our vision for Theology in the Raw is that we are having diverse conversations and we're trying to model and show what it looks like to have conversations and love one another. So we guarantee you that there's going to be people on stage that you might not agree with or might not. But what we're hoping that we'll accomplish in that is that you will learn that people will learn how to love better, to think deeper. I mean, our motto, and create a culture that is not so divisive. So we can't have anybody over our heads because you do so much research. I mean, it's not like you're flippantly grabbing people, whoever you want to put on stage. Like you have done your homework. You have got phone calls in. You're talking. If there's anything that you need to check into, I mean, you check into it. You are having all the conversations. So you're not missing anything. So when someone's like, why would you do that? You're like, well, I could tell you why, because I have a very specific reason for that. So we wouldn't be able to have a church that would be checking what you're doing all the time. But
yeah. I mean, I did that quite a bit with several speakers last year.
I don't know if you wanted to name them, but
no, I can. I mean, it's very public. I mean, initially, Matt Chandler went through a lot of stuff in the fall, and so when that all went down, I immediately reached out to him, reached out to people at the church. I read elders. I read. I mean, scoured legal documents and stuff. Like I did my due diligence. I didn't. So I know Matt. I love the guy. I think he's got impeccable character. Absolutely is committed to Christ in ways that I just is so humbling and impressive. So, but people could say, well, you're blinded by the relationship. And I said, no, I totally get that. That's why I'm going to also check with other people, And so, I was like, hey, I don't, if somebody is living in unrepentant sin, then we're not going to put them on stage. Unless they're a Christian or not a Christian, which I think next year we might have some people that don't claim to be Christians for various reasons. So
in the deconstruction topic, if we do that.
You're gonna spill that. So one of the sessions we want to do next year is on the church and deconstruction. And one thing I really want to do is have somebody who has deconstructed, rather than have a bunch of Christians and pastors talk about people who deconstructed. I want to have that too, but I want to have people who say, okay, I'm deconstructed. Here's why, and I want to listen and learn from actual deconstructors. So. So we're it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody we have on stage would I recommend to preach at your church on a Sunday morning. So, the first conference 2022, I was just really blown away. How did you give us some thoughts on this last one that we're still recovering from?
I feel like it's just setting just a tone, and it's setting a culture of what but we both, I always want to say myself, because it's not just because you do that I do, but really believe in what we're doing and what God's called us to do. And I think that just really just solidified it in my heart again, to just really believe man, I believe God is calling us to do this and is in this, and it's not like we are just bored and we don't have anything else to do and we're like, what should we do with our time? And let's, put out a conference. But it's I think it's really setting the tone for the future in our churches that we've just seen in the last several years, between politics and COVID and everything. abortion and just so many topics that has just divided and ruined families, ruined like churches that I just feel like, let's stop this. Like I just want this stopped. So yeah, I think it just really solidified it.
What for somebody that wasn't there, because most people listening weren't at the conference. Maybe give us a little taste of kind of what were some highlights for you, things that stand out, maybe some surprises, or even conversations you had with people. Like what were, because the thing is I'm back in the green room on stage, and I talk to as many people as I can, but I'm not out in the what's it called, the hall with the foyer, whatever. Whatever the thing, But you were talking to a lot of people. What was the kind of response?
Yeah, I mean, everyone just I heard a lot of people being able to say that I'm finally in a place where I'm free to think critically and think on different with my questions and ask questions that I don't normally feel the freedom to be able to do that, and just be in a space where other people feel like in the same as far as asking questions and being okay to admit that I'm thinking through this. I don't know where I line up and where I have everything figured out, and I'm open to learn more and so I think a lot of people were just saying that just felt so freeing to be in a place. And then I think people are always thanking you. Thank you for opening up my mind to some things that I didn't know what to ask, or didn't know, like the aside or how to what would I say to this, or you just help them to think even the things that they don't know that they're supposed to think. And I think the theology of disability, multiple people said that they kind of were like not super jazzed about it, to be honest. I mean, admittedly, they were like, I mean, maybe it'll be, and they just were just blown away at what they didn't know and didn't think about, but how important the topic is in our churches. But also too, just like you can take all the things that we learned from that topic and you apply it in all the other things. You can apply it into the LGBTQ conversation, and you can apply it to, missions, or just all the things that are like kind of diverse, and just knowing, like learning how to love and really care for one another.
Yeah. That was, I think it's pretty much across the board that people were most surprised at that session.
Yeah.
That was one. I mean, I said this on stage at some point that that was the one that was probably most excited about, and also most nervous about. Most excited because it's been really new to me, and so I planned that session largely because I'm like, I don't care if anybody else is interested. I'm interested, and I really want to learn. I think this is super important conversation, and I do think the church needs to have it. And so I knew deep down didn't have the kind of sexiness that some of the other topics have. It's not as public, but I'm like, well, I think that's wrong. Like, we need to actually make it more public. So going in, I was really excited about it, but I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if people weren't that into it.
Yeah.
And yet by the end of that one, I think people shed more tears during that one than any other session. Our camera guy, Daniel Olson, shout out. Amazing, all the camera stuff, all the pictures you see anywhere is all from Daniel Olson. He's an amazing photographer, and he said he wept for like an hour during that. He just couldn't stop crying.
Oh, me too. There's one point I just lost it. Yeah,
that was so that, and I even pulled I was talking to Tony Scarcello is about to, well, by the time this podcast comes out, I think he will have just planted a church. I mean, it's been months in the making, but he brought his church planting team out, and he admitted, he's like, we almost skipped the session because we're stayed up late and we're tired and everything, but we came, and then they were just blown away. And so I pulled Tony up on stage to just kind of share a few minutes about what they're thinking, how they're processing. So I
have one regret from the conference.
What's that?
Personal.
Oh yeah, I do too. It's the same regret.
So, Preston, you're always asking me, like even before this, you're like,
please clear my name from this. Yeah.
I want you on stage. You told me, how can we get you involved on stage and doing something? What interviews do you want to do? You even said, maybe do you want to do one of the interviews on disability? And I don't really want to get on stage. I am totally fearful. I was sitting there one time. I'm like, why would I be scared to go up there? I'm like, 'cause I'm afraid of y'all is what I was thinking. I'm scared of people. Like there's the backlash that you get. And like even this, I just like people are critical, which is, not a bad thing, but I just opening myself up to get criticized. I just don't feel like doing that. Admit it. So I'm like, I really am like I'm not fearful to talk. I'm more fearful of what comes out from it. And so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cause I feel like.
So when you're talking on stage, you're not nervous?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I feel like that I can get through it. It's just, what did I just say? And how am I going to get criticized? So when you would ask me, I'm like, maybe I'll think about it. And then I'll think about it. And I'll be like, nah, I don't need to. You have plenty of other people that could do a great job. I don't need to. And you kept saying like, you want me on there just so that also just have a presence that we do this together in that, I'm not speaking like you are, but at the same time, just even this kind of stuff, we have these conversations like, what are we doing? It's our ministry together that we believe in and want to do. So I was like, nah, but I'm like, if there's something specific that would be very specific to me needing to do, but if it's something that anyone else can do and are better at doing it, I don't need to. So I said no. And then like the very last song when the conference was ending, I literally felt like God was like, you need to get on stage. I have something I want you to share. And I was like, no, it's like trying to talk it out. My heart was like beating out of my chest. That's how I knew it was like the Spirit, like really prompting me, like, you need to go on stage. I want you to share something. And I was like, I was fighting back and forth with it, but I knew that the Lord was saying that to me. So I was like, I can't like say no. So that I texted you were back in the green room because there's worship, and I texted you and I was like, I think I want to come out and close it. I have something I need to share. And then I put my phone down because I didn't wait to hear like your response or anything. I just put my phone on because I was worshiping. And then in my mind, I said, if it's meant, like if God wants me to do it, it'll happen, and Preston will call me up or something. Well, your phone was on airplane mode, so you never got it.
I was about to come back on stage, so I put it on. Yeah.
And so you closed it out, and then I was like, oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to. That's totally fine. Like, I didn't need to. I wasn't supposed to go up. But then later on, I was like, man, I feel like I missed an opportunity of what God wanted to share.
I so wish you would have just walked up on stage.
And that's my regret, is I felt like I needed to listen.
Did you interpret my lack of response? Maybe I didn't want you
originally. Okay. No, not that you didn't want to. Okay. That it wasn't maybe God didn't want me to. Yeah. So that's my regret. I can share it here if I felt like so when I was like as I was worshiping, I just had this vision, and I do get a lot of pictures of just and I always feel like that's God really opening my mind up to what he wants me to see. But I was picturing and some of this is fictitious, which we know that it's creative fictitious ways that so it's not like has to all be biblical, right? Okay. I mean not biblical.
It's not unbiblical. It could be biblical, just not in the Bible. Doesn't mean it's against what's in the
right.
Bible.
So I had this picture that we were all standing at the gates, ready for the gates to open of hell. Or I'm sorry. Whoa, sorry. Gates of heaven. Sorry. Whoa. We're all standing there, and like tons and tons of us, and we were like just so excited and ready to be able to enter into heaven, into the gates, and I started looking around, and everyone was kind of looking around at each other. And then we all started saying, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. I'm so sorry for treating you the way that I did. I'm so sorry I didn't mean to say that. And then we spent like 5 minutes before we're supposed to walk into heaven. We spent like 5 minutes saying how sorry we were to one another. And this is the part that I'm saying is fictitious in the sense that I don't know if we're going to be doing that right before we walk in. And then I just felt the Lord say to me, let's not spend the first 5 minutes before we're supposed to enter in God's kingdom apologizing to one another. Let's get it right before here. And I felt like my charge was like, as we have these conversations, what Preston and I are trying to model and show is that loving one another and caring for one another, even when we disagree, even when we don't come in the same place, but treating each other like humans and still being able to, like, that's what we model at the conference when, the egalitarian and the complementarian are totally against interpreting things in different ways, and yet they're they hung out, like going having dinner the rest of the conference together and
That's
enjoying
beautiful.
each other. And I just was like, let's start this now. Let's not have to go apologize to one another. Like in the end, let's just get it right beforehand. So
that's dang.
And I was like, that's what we're doing here. That's why we come here. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So we're going to have lots of different topics, and some topics you might not be excited about or into, or, I mean, hopefully, everyone is, because we're choosing right topics. But in the end, what is our vision for theology in the raw? And it's being able to be kind to one another, think deeply, and then just treat each other with respect and care, and let's not have to just keep apologizing to each other in the end.
Wow. Dang. Whew, that's good. I wish my phone was on airplane mode. This episode is sponsored by Biola University. Biola is consistently ranked as one of the nation's leading Christian universities. It has over 300 academic programs at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, which are available both in Southern California and online. With leading academic programs like business, film, science, and more, Biola's biblically integrated curriculum and spiritual formation also helps students grow closer to God and gain a deeper understanding of Scripture. In fact, I was just on the campus of Biola, touring the campus and talking to several deans and professors, and every single person I talked to was so utterly passionate about making Christ first in all things and instilling Christ-like virtues in the hearts and minds of their students. I mean, honestly, I was so impressed with how Christ-centered the entire school is. So at Biola, students become equipped for living a thriving life and career. They'll also learn how to articulate their Christian beliefs, and most of all, they'll be prepared to serve as God's instrument in their communities and around the world. Now, through May 1st, 2023, if you use the promo code Preston, okay, my name, Preston, that will waive the application fee for any Biola program, okay? So promo code Preston, waive the fee. Some restrictions might apply. Just visit biola.edu for more information. Hey friends, are you a Christian parent with a kid that identifies as LGBTQ? Or do you know somebody who is? Look, I know these relationships can sometimes be challenging and raise lots of questions for both you and your kid. This is why my team and I at the Center for Faith, Sexuality and Gender created Parenting LGBTQ, a video-based discipleship experience that helps parents to love and walk with your LGBT loved one as Christ would want you to do. There's 11 sessions that talk about things like how to begin approaching the LGBTQ conversation, how to respond when your child comes out, how to navigate questions of faith with your child, and navigating partners and weddings, and much, much more. There's loads of testimonies from parents themselves and from LGBTQ kids, so you can learn from both sides of the relationship. We've also included a ton of supplemental resources that go along with all the different sessions. This resource is geared towards parents, but honestly, I think it would be very helpful for any Christian that has an LGBTQ loved one in their life. So to learn more, go to parentinglgbtq.com, or you can visit our main site at centerforfaith.com. That's parentinglgbtq.com or centerforfaith.com. Do you have a speaker or moment? Well, we talked about the disability section as a whole, but maybe another speaker or moment that really stands out to you that you're taking with you. And it's hard to like highlight maybe a good speaker because it could throw shade on everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite speaker? And you're like, oh, this guy. Well, it's not that guy. Or,
yeah. Lots. I feel like Ellie starting us off, what his intro talk starting us off was very impactful for me. Yeah. He just talked about just the generations being like his grandpa is like he looks to his grandpa as like as a like plowing through what he's doing now, like doing the same types of ministry and faithfulness, and how just like he talked a lot about just the generations being faithful. And that was really impactful for me because, and it just made me cry because I was like, that's where you and I are at. Like we have, I want to be, I was thinking, I was like, man, I want my grandkids and my great grandkids to look up and say, man, my grandma and my grandpa, or my great grandma and great grandpa was like changing the culture of the church and was faithful until the end. And just, so I got super, it, just the way he put it was, if you weren't here and you didn't listen to it, you guys should buy the recordings, because it was so like, I mean, there were so many of the talks, but it was really, it was incredible. You remember that or anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was thinking actually the same thing. I'm not just saying that. Like yeah. Whenever I hear, I've heard a few people now, not just at the conference, but just in life, like talk about their dad or their grandpa just being a model of faithfulness, and just seeing how the kids, sometimes they don't appreciate it when they're young, but when they get older, they look up and say, I want to be like my grandpa. I want to be like my dad or whatever. And like, it's like, yeah, it just gives me motivation to want to like set that pattern now, you know?
And we talk about that a lot, just even like as parents, like what would we want our kids to say about us, and what would we want our grandkids and stuff, and then whatever our answers are to that, like we need to live by that. And I think one of the things is just courageous, like right, I mean, I think that's for you, like you're courageous, like you are plowing through culture in a courageous way. You're not afraid to ask the questions, to think, and then just loving and loving well. And
yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's so to me, I look at two things with the like different speakers. Like one is just the power, like the power of the presentation, and then the content, and how it fits into the overall vibe. So I'm looking at it kind of through various lenses. And Ellie is just off the chart communicator. I mean, the guy is just incredibly gifted, and I've gotten to know him a little bit over the years, and just solid character, and just. Yeah, I just love having in their street hymns. I mean, so one thing we really value art. You're way more artistic than I am, but I value art, and so having street hymns, give several. He did like 3 different spoken words that kind of represent the various topics, and I love that. I would like to keep exploring how can we bring in the arts more to the conference, because I think it's, to me, it's a little not bad at all, but like it just is a little too predictable and boring to have like talks and then worship, worship, talks, and that's why even having conversations, even like pulling people up on stage at the last second, like Tony or whatever, just like, so I think that we're trying to mix it up that way. Just how can we draw upon and harness the full complexity of our human gifting, and touch people with all their sensories and all their complexity. Because if it's just a content dump, like that's great for our minds, but what about our other sensories, our hearts, our feelings, our emotions, and everything? So even like street hymns, doing a spoken word where he had the thing where the audience was participating with the lights and everything. Like I love that. I want to keep exploring how can we make this a holistic, embodied human experience for people that goes beyond, I guess, what we typically do every Sunday morning.
One of the things that I was just thinking, so I'm gonna forget it, but that got me thinking was one of the questions that somebody asked from the audience was, since we have so much diversity on stage, why do you think that it's like 95% white, the audience? And that
I think it's less than that, but 80%,
80 maybe. Okay. Yeah.
It's not as diverse as the stage. And it's not, the crowd is way less diverse than the stage, and less diverse than I think my podcast audience. And that
right. Yeah. And so we were like, they asked, why do you think that is? And that was really. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought about it, and then it got me thinking, and how do we change that? Because I don't want that. Like I just want to continually work hard at how can we. I just don't want just don't want it to be that way. So I don't know. So I will be working this this year until next year, just trying to figure out what does that look like? How do we, is it a matter of like specifically inviting, 20 people from a church that like, or I don't know, making it available, or just kind of what did somebody
Eugene Cho they're all Justin Gibbon, Justin Gibbon and Eugene Cho, they all, because it was in the middle of our multi-ethnic perspective session, so I was on the couch with four, one was Native American, Korean American, African American, and Latino American. So it was the question came up and I said, what do you guys think? Because I had that last year. I was actually really shocked at how the audience was way less diverse in the stage, because I was always told, like, you diversify the stage and everything will follow. You diversify the leadership and everything will follow. So I said, great. And so we're 100% committed to having
that's your biggest thing is when you're finding speakers.
I mean, and just to be clear, how do I want to word it? Like because the secular approach to diversity is kind of diversity sometimes over content or character. For me, it's like, no, because I believe so deeply theologically that the kingdom of God is diverse, that thoughtful, engaging people are across the board, male and female, and different ethnicities. So I'm not finding people that are ethnically diverse as if that is an intrinsic, like, that qualifies them to speak, whatever. It's like, no, I know there's loads of awesome voices out there that are incredibly thoughtful and wise and whatever, that are, that represent ethnic diversity. So, but yeah, that's a non-negotiable for us.
Yeah.
There are, to the best of our ability, the stage will be diverse, both with men and women, even age diversity, theological diversity within Orthodoxy, I would say, and people of different ethnicities. So sorry, you were.
Well, no, I was just saying. So if anybody has any ideas, I would love to hear it, because I do want to always be aware of that and try to.
Justin said, I forgot. I don't want to put words in his mouth. You guys can go listen to it, but that reaching churches that are largely, Black churches or Korean American churches, whatever, like it'll take time. Like actually, it was really positive. They said, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing what you should be doing, but it may take time. Like there's a brand new conference. People don't really know what it is. They heard about it from a distance, and Eugene said, coming to Boise, Idaho in March. People are a little bit like, I'm sure that's like my cup of tea. So maybe even changing it to April would help with some of that. But and maybe doing some one days in different areas, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe we do a one day hosted by an ethnically diverse church, or maybe that's part of our answer there. So that when we do the big one in Boise, they already have a taste of what it's about. I had another question. Do you have any questions or thoughts or anything right now? Or we have more time. Yeah. Or do you have to go?
No.
No. Okay. No. Shoot. I had something I was going to ask you. Oh well. Okay. This is a personal question for you.
Uh-oh.
I mean, you get so many requests to be on the podcast more. I think people loved the first year when you came on stage. We had a dialogue. Like, I think people do want to hear more from you. Do you feel like that's something you want to step into? I know you have zero desire for the stage, for the microphone, but you also have, I think you're very gifted in many areas that can be more up front and not just behind the scenes. And I don't, even the word "just" there is not accurate, because like theology in Iran, and anything I do, any book I write, anything I say on a podcast, any ministry I do would not exist without Chris. Like you are running, the organizations, and I feel like I have the easy part. I just come to my basement, half asleep, and hit record and do a podcast. But all the stuff in the back end, you're managing all that.
Well, and even the topics and stuff, right? I mean, we spend hours and hours in our hot tub or in conversations where we're talking all about it. We're like, you're bouncing things off me, or like I'm asking questions. So it's not like I don't know any of the things you're talking about. or not interested in it. I'm just interested in just the practical, making everything work. But it's like I feel like I'm very involved in whatever you're writing or speaking on and stuff. So
do you? I mean, because I know you are very good at the back, all this stuff that's behind the scenes, the planning, the orchestrating. Do you have any desire to do more upfront kind of ministry?
I don't, but I think it's out of fear, and I think I have a lot to say. But I'm okay only saying it to the people in person in front of me. I feel like my relationships, my friendships, and people that I have, we'll talk deep and I'll offer advice when I have it or thoughts or those. But so I don't need to I don't feel like I need to share any of my thoughts to massive amounts of people. I'm perfectly happy with sharing them with whoever God puts in front of me. But I do feel like I have lots of thoughts and lots of things to say. And I do think I could be helpful to people, but I just don't.
Is it just a criticism?
It's the criticism and then kind of the pressure that comes with that. And I just, I see that all from you and you can handle it. I probably can't handle it as well. I mean, I get my feelings way hurt and, you don't necessarily, or you're able to, let it roll. And to me, it does affect me. So I just, so I don't really want to do that. But my prayer always is, but I don't want to only do what I want to do. I want to do what the Lord wants me to do. So throughout the conference, I always pray it, but I was praying it again. Like God would have to truly show me why and what he wants me to do. It's like, I hear, I was just talking to a friend just yesterday. I was at her house and actually, Gloria that was singing on at the conference. So she was beautiful voice. She's seriously amazing. And
she leads our Swahili and French songs because she's fluent.
And so I was at her house yesterday and I was asking her, I was like, so when did you, how did you learn how to sing or anything? And she said, honestly, she goes, I've always loved singing, but I didn't have anything specific. But she said when I was 13 years old, I just prayed, Lord, please give me a voice so that I could share it with your people. And she goes, and it was almost like overnight, I got a voice that was not from me. And when she said that, I'm like, that's always my prayer, is that I'm like, if you do want me to have a voice any other way than I do right now, then you're just going to have to give that to me. You're going to have to give me a confidence or take away my fear or and show me very specifically. So I don't need to. I feel like.
Do you ever desire to speak like someone said, hey, we're having a conference? I almost said women's conference. But I mean, so. I do know you've told me before, like you feel, how do you put it? Just nervous because you don't feel like you're as theological as me.
Yeah,
speak.
definitely.
You feel nervous about saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, every topic. But. Well, because I feel like I talking with you, I'm like, everybody says wrong things all the time, and so just any topic, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna say the wrong word. I'm gonna interpret it. And so for me, speaking, you have to say everything so perfect. Whereas in a conversation, that's why one-on-one, I could sit and talk to you for an hour and feel great about it because every single thing in that hour wasn't probably completely perfect. But that's, so.
I mean, right now you're speaking to 25,000 people. You're basically preaching at Saddleback right now. Is it? But it's just, can't see them. So is it, I don't know.
No.
But you said you don't get nervous.
No, I do.
Looking at a sea of people? Or?
Yeah, I won't want to listen to this after. and at this point, I feel like we have 5 more years before we're empty nesters. And I don't, it takes a lot on our family when you go speak.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't, I want to I want to be available for our kids. So
I think, no, that's good. I think your kids would actually...
My kids?
Huh?
You said your kids.
Did I say your kids?
They're both of ours.
I think your kids. I think our kids. I think they would. It would actually, if you. Well, yeah, this isn't the reason to do it, but like if you did go speak somewhere, I think they would actually. I think it'd probably be good for your guys' relationship. I think they like it when they see you doing things kind of on your own that isn't explicitly connected to the family, you know. But
yeah, because they don't really feel like I do a lot. Like I asked them the other day, I go, do you feel like I work? And they're like, no. And I was like, wow.
They didn't say it. They know you do.
No, they did.
Come on.
They said not very much, like just like a little bit. I'm like, wow, great.
Not very
I mean,
much.
I'm glad.
My word.
But then I was kind of like, but.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
All right. So next year we are most likely, I mean, nothing's written in stone, I guess, but we're most likely going to do another Exiles conference. We're already playing around with different ideas on the sessions. Well, I said this publicly at the conference, so this isn't a secret, but like we really want to do something on deconstruction in the church, whatever, you know, we'll nail down the specific titles. I think we're going to bring back something related to sexuality and gender. Again, not exactly, you know, maybe we'll take a specific angle on that. And then the one that really got people pretty excited was doing something on women, power, and abuse in the church. I mean, this is just an ongoing conversation. We did the pre-conference on women in leadership. That was much more of a specific theological exegetical question we're wrestling with. But I'm equally interested in just whatever we say about complementarian egalitarianism, but just looking at just the culture of the church as a whole and how women are mistreated on various levels, all the way from actual abuse, all the way to just kind of subtle forms of misogyny. And I'm growing and learning so much about that. Do you have any thoughts on that? We've had a lot of conversations along these lines in the house, 'cause with 3 daughters and you. Yeah. I mean, you've told me. Do you want to speak about that?
No.
How you feel as a woman in the church?
Mm-mm.
You don't want to talk about that?
No.
How about being my wife in various settings and conversations? You know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
yeah, no, definitely that. I feel that, but that could be on different levels. So for one, you know, we both walk into a room and only people want to talk to you, which I mean, that's fine.
And I'm the introvert, and Chris actually wants to talk.
But then, yeah, like it's hard sometimes where it's like, if I try to say anything and it clearly the person is just like only focusing on you and wanting to hear what you have to say, even though I'm like, well, I might be able to speak into that. So there's times where I'm like, yeah, that just sucks.
Or they tell me, thank you for your ministry, Preston, and you're sitting right there and you're like, you won't say anything because you're not needing praise at all. But
yeah,
you know, we're both thinking like, well, Chris kind of runs all this. Like I'm just
I definitely. It just. Yeah, I definitely, I feel it. I mean, I think all women feel it really? It's just, we're groomed, or it's natural to think we need to listen more to men.
Really?
I mean,
is that just
our culture? I mean, you and I were raised in that,
yeah.
right? I mean, very conservative.
Yeah.
Like it's the man has the better words or whatever, and so.
Am I blind? I mean, you tell me. I don't think I personally feel that anymore. I would say ever since doing. Maybe I think for me it really switched when I did my PhD with loads of other PhD students and professors, and men and women there's probably more men. There's more men represented, but some of the most brilliant professors, they were women. Some of the most brilliant students, PhD students, were women. I don't know. I don't know if that was. And then I've taught in schools and stuff with the colleagues were women, like at Nottingham University. Like, maybe it's, I don't know. I've been in spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. You're more used to that. So you probably don't feel that.
I don't know. Yeah. But our church culture, not our current, but just church Big C
culture,
church, conservative church culture fosters that. Did you, Elise Fitzpatrick at the end? I mean, that was kind of a bomb at the end.
Yeah.
The 15-minute couch conversation.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that. I mean, I was kind of horrified that she says how the kinds of pervasive advice that women get when they are in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to submit more. You just need to.
Yeah.
Were you shocked at that, or do you feel like?
Well, I feel like you've touched a lot on that on your podcast with Sheila.
Oh yeah,
Gregoire.
Gregoire, yeah.
And just that, that's kind of like ingrained in us, right? That we have the power to help men or not help men and all that, but
it's a huge conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I just heard the kids come storming in.
I know. It's loud in here.
I'm sure I already talked. I haven't recorded the intro yet, but I'm sure I'll mention this, but I'll just mention it again. So the whole Exiles conference is available via video. Mm-hmm. It's just a Theology and Raw website, right? Is where we're selling it. So if you go to theologyandraw.com, if you want to watch the entire Exiles conference, we had a great video crew with several cameras set up, so it's really well done. So you can go and purchase that the whole entire conference at the website. So any other last words, Chris?
Well, you're wearing the merch from this year.
Oh,
you want to show the back for just YouTube, I guess. So.
Is that visible?
Yep. All right. Think deeply, love widely. So our second daughter, Aubrey, and she's turning 18 next week, and her friend, Kayla, shout out to them. They designed all our merch this year. We had this crew shirt and then the hoodie. And it was more of a
reviews.
Yeah, we sold out. Or there's some sizes that are not sold out, but it was more of a beachy vibe. So they are asking if they could be the ones designing it next year and have a different vibe. But
I'm so impressed because they just went on taste, right? They just like, and
I kind of was like, I think it's just for a younger crowd, like the way they look, because the hoodies have big bubbly letters, and I mean, there's lots. It's very in style for nowadays, but. Everybody was loving them and buying them. So we have some more. I'm gonna try to get a store going to just be able to sell out of the rest of
online?
The things that we have.
I get asked that all the time.
I know. So yes, we have it like 75% set up.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's a big deal to make a store online, right? I mean, the shipping and all that.
No. Once it's all set up, it's easy to do it, and I'll hire one of my kids to be the shipping people.
We're such a mom and pop. Our kids are in the basement.
No, they're always trying to make money. So here you
stuff
go.
in newspaper and shipping it out.
But anyways, I'd love to be able to sell off all the rest so that next year we'll have a new look. But they did. They did it. They designed it, and
I was impressed. Yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks for listening to Theology and Raw. We'll see you next time on the show.
This show is part of the Converge Podcast Network.
Hey friends, have you been blessed or encouraged or challenged by Theology in the Raw? If so, would you consider joining Theology in the Raw's Patreon community? For as little as $5 a month, you can gain access to a diverse group of Jesus followers who are committed to thinking deeply, loving widely, and having curious conversations with thoughtful people. We have several membership tiers where you can receive premium content. For instance, silver level supporters get to ask and vote on the questions for our monthly Patreon only podcast. They also get to see written drafts of various projects and books I'm working on, and there's other perks for that tier. Gold level supporters get all of this and access to monthly Zoom chats where we basically blow the doors open on any topic they want to discuss. All of my patrons play a vital role in nurturing the mission of Theology in the Raw. And for me, just personally, interacting with my Patreon supporters has become one of the hidden blessings in this podcast ministry. So you can check out all of the info at patreon.com/Theology in the Raw. That's patreon.com/Theology in the Raw.